How many of you out there are scientifically oriented? Are you interested in some of the science of spirituality? Today, we're going to be talking about one aspect, zero consciousness. Today on The Spiritual American. Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'm going to go a little out there. There is a principle that I like to use in my own understanding of things because I'm more of a scientific kind of thinker. I would rather say, I have some say in what happens, or I would rather understand something than just say, oh, well, God took care of it, or I'm going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And there's a time for that. Believe me, I have to, I have to learn how to do that more actually, because there's still some anxiety and stuff like that about what happens. Maybe there's a little bit of reaction to things that happen in the world still inside of me. And to be able to say, yes, it will be okay and I'm protected and things like that is helpful. But in terms of understanding how consciousness works, I would like to introduce this idea of zero consciousness. This is something that I've been working with, and I have been working with this with some of the students that have come, and they do intuitively understand it. So I'm going to try to give a little mathematical background and then talk about how to use this idea in spirituality. So zero, what is zero? Is zero a number? It's part of mathematics, right? If you look at the the line of numbers, right? The integers, you have zeros in the middle, and then you have positive integers and negative integers. So all these value-based symbols that we use in mathematics. And zero is in between the positive and the negative. You could say that zero is neutral, but zero also has some interesting properties and interesting ways of being used. So, for instance, if you have a 1 and you add a 0 after the 1, all of a sudden the 1 becomes 10, even though 0 is still 0. So, how does 1 become 10? Interesting. Add another 0, it becomes 100. So, there's this sense of when you add 0, you're adding value. That's one idea. Another way of using zero is if you actually add 0 to anything. So I said add it like if you have a 1 and then you put a 0. If you put a 0 after a 1, it becomes 10. But if you add 0 to 1, so if I say 1 plus 0 is what? 1. So if you add 0 to anything like addition, it maintains its property. So if I say 625 plus 0 is 625. So 0 doesn't really interfere. If you add 0 in, it doesn't take away from what's already there. Interesting point, right? What's another aspect of 0? If you multiply by 0, so if we add, so first of all, let's say this. What's more powerful, adding or multiplying? What's a more intense action? I would say multiplication is probably more powerful than adding, right? Even if you say 5 plus 6 is 11, but if you say 5 times 6, then you have 30. So if you multiply, you actually get more. So what happens when you multiply anything by 0? Very interesting. You get 0. I'm going to make this make sense in a minute. So for those of you who are listening to this who aren't that scientific, you're probably like, what is she talking about? But I'm going to relate this to how spiritual effort works, okay? So what have we said so far? So 0 is in between positive and negative. If you put it after something, it makes it, we say 10, like 10 times more, right? And then if you add it to anything, the thing maintains its value. And if you multiply anything by 0, you get 0. So let's see how this works with spirituality. So let's say that when I meditate, when I say that I am a soul and my nature is peace, and I identify myself as a being that has nothing to do with the world, thoughts, feelings, nothing, the mind, I'm completely distinct from that. You could also say that I, the soul, am neither positive or negative, or maybe just the fragrance of positivity. Peace has a fragrance of positivity, let's say. But you wouldn't say that a soul is good and another soul is bad. There's a sense of neutrality, there's a sense of equanimity in the soul, in thinking of myself as a soul. So you could, in this exploration, say that I'm zero, that this zero consciousness is me in relation to whatever I'm perceiving. So another way of looking at this is sometimes people say, I am the sky and the clouds. I'm watching the clouds, like the thoughts and the feelings or the clouds going by. That's a metaphor, right? So another way of thinking about it scientifically is that I am zero. I am just pure consciousness, and I'm aware of the other things. Like zero is there and aware of the numbers, let's say, but it's not the numbers. So there's a neutrality there. I can be neutral. I'm distinct. Zero is distinct from everything else. There's no other number like zero. So let's say I'm saying that I'm the soul, I am the living consciousness, and I'm thinking something. So if I remember zero at that moment, and I can say, okay, I'm zero, and that thought is something, but I'm not it. I'm watching it. I'm zero. I'm neutral. And I can also take on the property of non-interference. Like, okay, if I look at it, it doesn't mean I have to interact with it. I don't have to interact with the thoughts or the feelings or whatever else is going on in my mind. I can actually remain zero. This is very helpful because this is the first part of spiritual effort, which is observation. I say sometimes merciful self-observation, where we are learning how to be zero in relation to the mind and what's going on in the mind. And I'm observing, and in this case, it's not totally neutral because you have a positive feeling about yourself. You want to feel good, you want to feel happy with yourself, and so forth. So there is a sense of well being in there. It's not like a totally dead zero feeling, but I have merciful self observation. I'm zero in the sense that I'm separate, I'm distinct, but I have a good feeling. I'm watching with mercy. Now, what about the multiplication of zero? So I'm going to relate that to the actual spiritual effort of moving away from or merging the personality traits, the thoughts, the emotions, and things that we're looking to overcome. So most of us come into a spiritual practice because we're hurting on some level. There's some part of us that we're not happy with, or we're trying to resolve issues in our life or so forth. And we're looking to meditation to maybe help me calm down, maybe help me relax, maybe some stress management. But meditation can also be used to strengthen your powers of discernment, strengthen your power of being able to decide or change something or see something properly or accurately. Meditation can also be used for that. So when I'm in meditation, the purpose is to gain some of that power to discern, some of that power to decide, power to face, all the powers that we talk about in the foundation course. If you look at the Raj Yoga Foundation course in the playlist here, all the lessons are there. And the fourth lesson, excuse me, is for the powers of the soul. So part of the reason to meditate is to gain those powers. So what is the aim of this? Why do we want to gain these powers? Because we want to be able to merge or finish or live a life not being influenced by those negative experiences. So, how does this relate to zero? I would say this process of meditation, gaining the powers, learning spiritual knowledge, understanding karma, understanding all that is the equivalent of multiplying by zero. If we take in this knowledge and practice it, we're not just 0 to 1 or we're not just interacting neutrally anymore. We're actually bringing in powers that can neutralize the other stuff. I'll give an example. So, I've been meditating for 15 years and not only meditating, but studying. So, this is the multiplication piece, okay? I'm not just watching my thoughts anymore. I'm actively trying to diminish some of the persistent negative thinking, or not only negative, but overly emotional or reactive parts of my internal world. So, for instance, the other day, something happened and I spent 20 minutes reacting to the thing, not reacting like yelling at anybody, but reacting like I was feeling confused. What am I going to do? Maybe, and then of course, all the, the spiritual knowledge was coming in. Oh, maybe this is my karma. Maybe this is that. But the thing is that I was very emotional. I did not feel stable. I did not feel powerful. And so what happened was, even though I had that 20 minutes or so where I was reacting and confused and trying not to talk because something new I didn't want to talk, like I was trying to multiply by zero and trying to make it disappear, but it didn't disappear. So I ended up talking about it. And then after that, everything worked out like exactly the way I wanted it to. So then I look back and I say, did I really need to react for 20 minutes? Because everything did work out. So for those of you out there listening to this, how many of you have had the experience where you react to something, you get upset about something, and then it works out 10 minutes later or it works out 30 minutes later? Do you ever look back and say, why did I get so upset? But you can't seem to dissolve that habit of reacting. Even if we're aware of it, sometimes we're not able to dissolve it. So I'm offering this idea here of multiplying by zero means that I'm actually now in meditation going to take a look at that thing, take a look at that reaction, figure out where it's coming from. I already started to think, where did reminds me of this person in my past, reminds me of this situation or whatever, trying to get a handle on it, trying to see more of it, which would be multiplying. I'm bringing my zero, meaning my awareness, more into that thing, multiplying. It's easy to say, oh, I'm never going to do it again. But don't we say that and then it happens again? So this zero consciousness can be used as an addition. Like I can think about it all day long. I can observe my mind all day long. That would be like adding zero. The thing is there and I'm zero. I'm okay. I'm distinct. I'm not interfering with it, but I'm not reacting to it. That would be adding zero. But if I multiply by zero, now I'm using the zero and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I really want to get a handle on this thing, figure out what this thing is so it no longer manifests. And I'm going to say that this actually works. Last point about this. Another way of saying what I'm saying is remember God, that God is zero. And then if I remember God, and I remember God while I'm, washing dishes, while I'm living my life, each situation, that I'm actually bringing zero into my awareness. Now, this works if I already think of myself as a soul. And then I understand that God is the supreme soul. So it's like zero and zero. It's like exponential multiplication of zero then. So it's like I'm zero, This thing that I see and everything that's going on is the numbers, the things. I'm 0, God is also 0, and I'm remembering God. So I'm like reinforcing my power. This is Raj Yoga, by the way. Considering yourself to be a soul and remembering God or remembering the supreme soul, remembering the unlimited 0, let's say. And what is the ultimate benefit of this 0 consciousness? I'm going to say now that the unlimited benefit of this is that if you keep practicing this, if you're 0, nothing can ever change you. Like you literally can be stable. Nothing can ever beat you if you remain 0. There's so many gurus out there talking about this in different ways, in terms of watching the mind, in terms of realizing that maybe you're nothing, you're not. I mean, I don't like to say I'm nothing, but I know what they mean. I prefer to say 0 consciousness, meaning that I exist, but I'm choosing to stay in this distinct, neutral, and powerful consciousness in relation to everything else. So I am going to leave it there. For those of you who are scientific and less, let's say, devotional or less religious, hopefully this will give you something to think about in terms of how spiritual effort can actually work, where it doesn't mean that you're dependent on anything. It's not a matter of dependency. It's a matter of understanding. It's a matter of determination. It's a matter of wanting it, to want to be free, to want to be powerful, to want to be able to discover the deeper nature of myself. And I will say that as these things begin to merge and these things, as I'm multiplying by 0 and these things begin to go away, I begin to discover how beautiful and sweet and benevolent I actually am. We all are. This is our spiritual inheritance as human beings. So I will leave it there. Remember, our slogan is heal, empower, and serve. And until next time, take care.